Hello, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we are going to talk about task batching. This is a phrase that you've probably heard thrown around before by productivity experts and time management topics and all kinds of things in kind of the personal development space. Batching is something that's talked about a lot, and I know you're like, do I really need another video on batching? But hear me out. This was inspired by a question that came from someone inside my Patreon community during one of our monthly Q&As, and the question that she asked is, how do you decide what tasks are worth batching and which ones aren't? Because there are some things that you used to batch that you don't anymore, things like cleaning and things like laundry, but then there are things that you still do batch and find value in batching those items. So how do you decide which ones to batch and which ones not to batch? And I just thought that was such a good topic. We had a good discussion about it in the Patreon community that I wanted to create a video on it. So in this video, I'm gonna start by talking about what is task batching, in case you haven't heard the phrase before. Then I will go into what I do batch, what tasks I do batch together, which ones I don't batch and why, and then what are some other tasks that maybe I don't do on a regular basis that you could consider batching. And then the last part of the video, which I think is gonna be the most valuable, is some tips on how to figure out which tasks in your life are valuable for you to batch together. Because just because I batch something or because I don't, it doesn't mean that the best option for you is to do it that same way. So let's get started. What is task batching? Task batching is batching like tasks together and doing them consecutively back to back to save you both time and energy. And it's to save you both mental and physical energy. Not everything is about productivity, and I'm not looking to tell you to be a robot and to create your entire life routines and structures and batching and all these things to optimize productivity. But there are some things in our lives that are more important than others. And so if I can save time and energy on the things that I need to do that are not as important by batching them, in order to free up time to focus on the things that are really important in my life, then I'm here for it. Let me give you a couple of examples of how batching saves time that you likely already do or have experienced in your life. Have you ever made a batch of cookies? Could you imagine if you wanted to make cookies that you take enough flour for one cookie, and then enough butter for one cookie, and enough baking soda for one cookie, and enough sugar for one cookie, and then you mix it together. I know there's more ingredients, but just go with me. You mix it together, you make your one little cookie, and then you put it in the oven, and then you bake it for 10 minutes, you take it out, perfect, it's a perfect cookie. Next, and you do the same thing for each individual cookie. How long would it take you to bake a dozen cookies? Forever, it would take you a very long time. Instead, you batch bake the cookies. You put in enough flour for 12 cookies, enough sugar for 12 cookies, and you mix all the ingredients together, you roll out the 12 cookies. You do all the rolling at the same time, and then you bake them all at the same time. And that is how you have batched the task of baking cookies. And the same thing can be true for batching your tasks together. So let's talk about the tasks that I do batch together. The first one, the one that I'm doing right now, is creating content. I have found that it is more valuable for me to create content on a monthly basis rather than a weekly basis. So I take 2 to 3 days every single month to batch create all of the videos that I have for the month. So I start by batching all the outlines. I create the outlines of all the videos that I'm gonna create. Then I get ready, and I only have to do that once. I set up the camera, I only have to do that once. And then I sit here and I film all the videos and I batch those videos together. And then I work on my Instagram content. I pick all the topics first. Then I write all the captions. Then I pick out all the photos and then I draft them all in Instagram. And I'm batching the tasks together rather than doing one video from start to finish, one Instagram post from start to finish. I save so much time by batching all of that together. Another one that I frequently batch together is errands. If I am leaving the apartment to go do something, I will think, are there any other errands I need to run this week? Is there any other thing that I need to leave the apartment for? What else can I do while I'm out? Especially things like my Trader Joe's and my library are across the street from each other. So if one has to happen that week, likely I'm gonna try and squeeze both in on the same trip because I'm already going to that part of my neighborhood. Another thing that I try to batch is meal prep and food. I don't really like cooking. And so if I can spend less time in the kitchen by doing it all at once, so I will get in the kitchen on Sundays and I will cook a bunch of chicken that I will use for different recipes throughout the week. And I, can change them up. I have a cookbook that I love that I'll link that really helps me with batching food. It's called Cook Once, Eat All Week. But the concept of that book is that I'm going to batch cook all of the ingredients on one day, save myself time throughout the week. Another thing that I've started batching is communication. So I get lots of Instagram messages, emails, text, comments, etc. throughout the day. I used to respond to them as they came in. Couple minutes here, couple minutes there. Now what I do is I sit down and I have a specified hour every single day that I respond to texts, comments, messages, all of those things. Some days it probably doesn't save me that much time, but most days I go to respond to that Instagram message and then I end up scrolling on Instagram and I spend so much time scrolling on Instagram that I hadn't planned to spend. Now, when that Instagram message comes in, I go, that's okay. I'll respond to that later when I get to my communication time, and I batched that together. Another thing that I've batched is the order in which I do my routines. So both my morning and my evening routine, I have batched them by room. So I do all the things I need to do in the bathroom first, and then all the things I need to do in the kitchen, and then all the things I need to do in the living room, and then all the things I need to do in my office. And that's the order of my routine. There could be a better way, depending on you and your household and your routines. There might be a better way for you to organize your routine. Maybe you batch it by task, put all the writing stuff together, then all the reading stuff, and then all the meditation and all the batch it like that. Maybe you batch it by how long the task takes. Maybe you do all the shorter tasks first and then move your way up to the longest task. It's gonna be different for every person, what works for you and what doesn't, but that's one of those things that I've tried that works really well for me. All right, the last thing that I always batch is email. And when I say batch, it's not always batch responding. I'm still working on that one. But what I batch when I respond, especially to work emails, especially if I've been out of the office and I have a lot of emails to respond to, I sort them by who they came from. Because I know when certain emails come from certain people, I'm just copying on it for FYI purposes. I'm not gonna have to respond to that. So when I get to that person, I just plop all those into a folder. I don't really even need to go through all of those. Then there are certain people that I get to that I skip because I know that those responses are going to take more effort. The ones from my manager, I know that I will need more time, so I don't respond to those right away. I save those for later. But I batch it by the person that it's coming from. Again, you might batch emails differently. You might also try to batch emails like by the time of day. Again, I'm still working on that one, but there are so many ways to batch things, and I've just found which ones work for me and which ones don't based on trial and error. So what are some of the things that I don't batch right now? And some of these things, if you watch my vlogs, are newer and I'm still trying to get a feel for if they work. Some of them are just based on what's happening in my life. And the first one of those is laundry. So I used to batch laundry because we didn't have laundry in our apartment. It was in the basement of our building and there were 5 washers and 5 dryers. So I would only do laundry every 2 weeks, but I would go down there with 4 loads and I put all 4 in the washer and then all 4 in the dryer and then I put all 4 away. And that's what worked where we lived. Now we have a washer and dryer in our apartment. And so I don't batch laundry that way anymore, partially because we have a smaller hamper in our new apartment that doesn't hold as many clothes, so I wouldn't be able to go 2 weeks without washing clothes. Part of it is the washer and dryer in our apartment takes forever. And so if I batched it all on one day, it would take me like basically the whole day. So I've started doing the 1 load a day thing, which I've heard a lot of people, especially moms, talk about for years that works. Why does doing 1 load a day work when batching is so efficient? Well, for that particular task, a task that takes a lot of time, but in the background, something that you're not focusing on all the time, it can work like that. Another task that I used to batch that I don't anymore is cleaning. So I used to also not do a good job of doing it. So what I used to do is try and batch cleaning and do it for 2 hours straight on the weekends and clean the entire apartment from top to bottom. That doesn't work for a couple of reasons for me. One, I don't like cleaning. And so doing it for 2 hours on a weekend, that is not enjoyable. That's not how I want to spend my weekend. The second one is it always felt like things were coming up because the weekends are so unpredictable, because we would do different things or we would travel, and the weekend wasn't always consistent. And so for me, I figured that building cleaning into my weekday routine was going to be easier for me to be consistent than building it into my weekend routine. And I didn't want to do 2 hours of cleaning on a weekday. If I didn't want to do it on the weekend, I definitely don't want to do it in the evening on a weekday when I'm tired. So I decided that doing 30 minutes a day of cleaning 4 days a week during the weekday was better for me than doing 2 hours on the weekend. The last thing that I don't batch that a lot of people do seem to batch is budgeting. What I found is a lot of people like to sit down and do their budget once a month or once a week and do all their tracking of expenses and all their reconciling of accounts and all those things. I happen to love numbers and I happen to love spreadsheets, and it also helps that I've gotten on top of my finances, and so looking at my finances doesn't bring me stress. I actually enjoy looking at my finances, and so I like doing my budget, and so I do it every day instead of once a week or once a month, and it takes me way less time when I do it that way, but I also have to log in and like open the spreadsheets every day, so I probably could save time if I did it once a week, but I like doing it once a day, so that's what I do. Some other ideas of things that you could batch that don't really fit into my life is sorting mail. If you get a lot of mail, we just don't get a lot of mail, but instead of doing it every single day when you come back from the mailbox, you put it all in a box and you do it once a week. Making kids lunches is another one that I hear a lot. I don't have kids, and we're not leaving the house to have lunch, so we just typically have leftovers. But if you're sitting down to make kids lunches, instead of making like one kid's lunch and then the next kid's and the next kid's, you do all the sandwiches and then you do all the chips, and moms are probably like, yes, that is how I make lunches. But that was something that I hadn't heard of before, like even doing it for myself, that I was like, oh, that's a great idea. And then there's also other types of tasks or projects that could be specific to your business that I don't currently do, that you could batch. Like if you write blog posts, instead of taking one blog post, coming up with the idea, writing the outline, writing the blog, taking the pictures, putting it into your website, formatting, and then scheduling it, what if you did each piece individually? What if you did all the ideas, then all the outlines, then all the writing, then all the photos? You could definitely save some time that way, and I actually learned that from Amanda Warfield, who teaches a class called Content Batching Bootcamp that is amazing, and I highly recommend, if you are a content creator, I highly recommend checking out her class. So let's move into the tip section of this video. I'm just going to give you some things to keep in mind when you look at your task list, all the things that you do on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and think about some of the ways that you could maybe group them together and create your own task batching list. So the first one is setup and prep work. So things like filming for me takes a lot of setup and prep work. I've got to do my hair and makeup, I've got to set up the camera, I used to have to set up lights, but now I have this beautiful window. But all the prep work that goes into setting up and getting ready to film, I don't want to do that every single day or every single week for each individual video. I would rather do it once and then power through all the videos. The same thing goes for post work. So undoing things, and for that, I'm giving you the dishes example. When I batch cook on Sundays, it saves us so many dishes during the week. Because I already cook things on the weekend, I now have less dishes to cook during the week, and it is so nice to not have as many dishes to do. So think about how much prep work or how much post work to clean up there is from a task that you do, and maybe especially if it's a task that you do regularly, and could you do that grouped together. The next one is location, and this one kind of goes with the errand example. You know, my library and my Trader Joe's are right next to each other, so can I go to them at the same time? Is there something else that you can batch with location? So is there a store that's always near your child's gymnastics? Could you leave a little bit early and go to the store before you go to gymnastics, get some freezer bags, keep things cold, and save yourself, you know, the trip in the car? You know, maybe you save it for the weekend because you think that that's the only time I have because I'm working, because I can't leave early because I'm working. Could you work a little bit earlier in the day? Could you take a shorter lunch so that you could do that? Sometimes it takes some finagling and moving some stuff around in order to make it work in your schedule, but the amount of time and energy, mental and physical energy that you're going to save by doing it this way is going to be so worth it. The next one is appearance. Is there a certain task that you need to or you don't need to look a certain way? Before everything shut down, I used to always, and before I started batch filming monthly, when I would film every single weekend, I would always line up my filming when I already had to be ready for something else. I rarely put on makeup and did my hair just for filming. I also knew that I was going to be going to another event or something that I would need my hair and makeup done for. Now, when that changed and we weren't going anywhere, then I started having to do hair and makeup for filming. But for you, maybe if you have control of your client calls, maybe if there's a day that you know that you're gonna run errands and you're going to, not care, hair in a ponytail, sweatpants, you don't book any client calls that day, and that's your sweatpants, hair in a ponytail day. But then if you know that you have an evening planned, an event, a dinner that you have to go to in the evening, maybe that's the day that you book all of your client calls so that you get ready, put makeup on and do your hair for that one day, and you have it for multiple events. This will take a little bit more thought to combine events that don't feel like they fit together, tasks that don't automatically associate them together, but think about whether you have to be dressed up or dressed down for certain things, and can you batch those activities on the same day. All right, the next one is mental capacity. And what I mean here is tasks that either require a lot of focus or no focus. It is tough for our brains to go in and out of focus for something really important and then to think about something that's like not as important. So if you have tasks that require a lot of focus, deep thinking, and this could be for work or this could be for your personal life or your business, whatever it is, put all those tasks on the same day. It's going to feel counterintuitive, I know that, but I promise you that once your brain is already in that flow state of doing that deep, tough mental work, you can do more of it. And so put it all together. And then the same thing goes for the kind of fluffy, mindless work. If there's a task that you do at work where you're just kind of copying and pasting stuff, and the tasks that feel like you could be watching a movie while you're doing them, can you group all of those together and do all of those types of tasks at the same time? Along those same lines, another thing to think about is the type of activity that you're doing. So are you sitting in a computer? Are you outside? Are you writing? Are you in a certain spot in your house? Like, what type of activity are you doing? And can you do more of that type of activity? So if you're already sitting down to write in your journal, could you also write some birthday cards at the same time? Because you're already in the writing mindset. If you're sitting down at your computer to respond to emails, could you also do that other computer project that's on your list and maybe you scheduled it for later in the day? Think about what type of activities that you have going on and which ones have similar setups or similar actions, because again, getting into that flow state for your mind and for your body is very helpful. And then the last kind of thing to keep in mind is something that I have heard a lot of entrepreneurs talk about, and I have never been able to implement it, but man, it is something I would love to try someday, and that is grouping your tasks by days of the week. So taking all the things that we talked about and really grouping like things together on certain days of the week. So one day of the week, I'm not getting ready at all that day, and I am running all of my errands, and then I'm also gonna batch clean my house on that same day. So sweatpants, hair in a ponytail, all of that on one day. The next day is going to be my talking day. So I'm gonna record my podcast, I'm gonna film videos, I'm going to schedule coffee dates, and I'm gonna schedule dinner with a friend. And that is just, that might be, sound like a miserable day for an introvert, but get it all out of the way and do all of that on one day. Then batching things day by day based on your task, your specific task that you have going on, and maybe also based on your energy levels. For me, I have way more energy on Monday and Tuesday for whatever reason than I do on Wednesday and Thursday. And so maybe I put those higher energy, mental focus, tougher tasks on Monday and Tuesday, and those easier, less thinking about tasks on Wednesday and Thursday or something like that. The same could go for the time of day. The earlier in the day, I have more energy. And so I need to schedule those mental deep work activities earlier in the day and leave the easier stuff for the evening. So a lot of things to think about. I just threw a lot of stuff at you. So what I want you to do is I want you to take all the things that I just said, and I want you to think of one idea, one task batched thing, one concept from this video that you can apply to your tasks that you do every day, week, or month that can batch together, and that can save you some time and energy. And I want you to let us know down in the comments which one that is going to be for you and which item you're going to be batching. So I hope that this was helpful. Let me know if there are any other topics like this that you would like to see my take on and how it impacts my life and how it applies to me and my tasks. I would love to share that with you. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new here, please click that subscribe button. I upload new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday focused on helping you achieve your goals. Thank you so much for watching. This is a phrase that you've probably heard thrown around. Go into what I do, what tasks I do batch. What do I do? It's gonna feel counterintuitive.